Happening now on Grid Tonight. After reviewing the fallout at the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Michael Masi is out as Formula One race director. Who's replacing him and what changes were made to avoid a repeat? World Rally Championship returns for Rally Sweden. Sebastian Loeb and Sebastian Ogier are not competing this weekend, so who are the favorites to win? Matt White's also here to make his weekly Grid history update. And Mario Andretti, the motorsport legend, dropped a massive bombshell on Twitter at the end of last week. Why did it send shockwaves throughout the entire racing community on both sides of the Atlantic? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grit Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, and with me, as always, Adam Lemerise. And next, a special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deschelle, and Robin for everything you've done for investing in the Grid Network. A link to our Patreon in the video description below. And to all of our viewers, please feel free to comment in the chat room below, ask questions, and engage in the discussion. But let's kick off tonight's show with changes the FIA made after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And after conducting an investigation into all the Formula One drama we saw at the end of last season, Michael Masi, as I said, won't return as race director because the FIA has offered him another job. Two race directors from the FIA World Endurance Championship in DTM will replace Masi on a rotational basis. Eduardo Freitas and Nils Vitich will be assisted by senior advisor Herbie Blash, who served as a deputy under the late Charlie Wyden. In addition, FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem says they're creating a virtual race control room similar to the virtual assistant referee you see in soccer to give outside assistance to race control so they can make the right call in timely manner. When you're watching American football here in the United States, it's basically like a coach throwing the red flag to challenge the ruling of an incomplete pass, and they have people sitting in the New York City NFL league office assisting the referee going in the booth to make the calls. While it will still be acceptable to ask the race director questions, the direct radio communications we hear between the driver and team during the race broadcast, I'm sorry to say, those will disappear in order to protect the race director from any pressure and allow them to make an impartial decision. In regards to unlapping procedures behind the safety car, Sullivan, the FIA president, said this will be reassessed by the Formula One Sport and Advisory Committee and presented to the next Formula One Commission prior to the start of the 2022 season. Adam, do you think the changes made by the FIA, all of those that I listed, will ensure we never get a repeat of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix ever again?
Yes. And I want to say congratulations to Eduardo Freitas and Neil. I want to say congratulations to Eduardo Freitas and Niels Vitash for being race directors. Eduardo Freitas has a lot of respect from many people in the motorsports industry. So, and Niels Vitash comes over from a respectable series in Europe called the DTM. That series has run throughout Germany and neighboring countries for a long, long time. And I think with these changes now, we won't see anything like what we saw last year. I know a lot of fans, still are talking about it. But it's time to move on. The 2022 F1 season isn't far away in Bahrain. And hopefully now with these changes, the F1 season will be a really good one. They're doing some unofficial preseason testing in Barcelona right now. So hopefully we won't see anything happen like what we saw after last year's chaotic Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Adam. I feel like the FIA really made some decent changes. They added two highly respected race directors. Eduardo Freitas is actually my favorite race director from any racing series all around the world. I
Yep.
really enjoy I really enjoy listening to his voice on and when he's call it doing his duties in race control. It just sounds so soothing, like that's the type of guy I want to read me a bedtime story when I was a little kid. He has that type of voice. But in all, Eduardo Freitas has done a great job, and Niels Vitich has done well as well in the DTM, calling, making all the right, well, trying to make the right calls, is doing the best to do his job the right way. And then I saw George Russell. He really approved of the virtual race control room, as I mentioned, similar to the league office you see in New York City when the coach throws out the red challenge flag, and then they send the ref in the booth, and then he's in communication with people who are giving their opinion as well to make sure they get the call correct. I think that's going to help take some of the pressure off of the race director, whoever it is, whether it's Vitich or Freitas. So that's definitely a positive change, and it's good to see that they're going to address the unlapping procedures we saw as well. So hopefully we'll get some good information before the start of the upcoming Formula One season. But the one thing that I'm very disappointed about is the direct radio communications we always saw in the broadcast, because I felt like that really made the broadcast, really completed the broadcast, and it's unfortunate we're not going to see those anymore. Although I will argue, I feel like that those should not go away. I feel like the race director will be able to perform their duties well without taking away the direct radio communication. So I'm not really sure why the FIA thought that was a good idea. Maybe if there's enough outcry from the public, maybe they'll eventually bring those back, because I don't see how that's harmful and is going to interfere in in a race director making a call. And speaking of making calls, Lewis Hamilton's calling for the FIA to make their findings public from their investigation, because Lewis feels like it's best for the public to see everything that went down, everything they found, so they can get a full understanding of what went down, so we can put this behind us and finally move on to better things. And as you mentioned, Adam, there's still Formula One fans out there who don't recognize Max Verstappen as an FIA Formula One world champion. And some are still holding, I can't believe I'm even saying this. Some people out there still hold on to hope that last year's championship results will get overturned. And as we all know, that won't happen, because Max Verstappen is world champion. End of story. Still, many Hamilton fans are still very upset with the outcome. Will the FIA, showing transparency by releasing a report from its investigation, help erase any doubts that some still feel about last year's championship decider?
Yes, and and I agree with what, and I completely 110% agree with what Lewis Hamilton said. As we, the general public, we want to know, about these findings. I think, it's been too long, and it's time to release. It's time to release it to the fans. I have a lot of respect for Lewis Hamilton, and after what we saw happen last year, Lewis Hamilton will go out and try to win his 8th F1 World Championship. What we saw last year between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, I think it continues into this year. It's going to be an interesting battle between those two men, with Mercedes and Red Bull. And the F1 season opener in Bahrain isn't that far away. So I agree with Lewis Hamilton. I want to see these findings, from the FIA, and hopefully it'll be announced real soon.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Adam. I think it's really going to help with speaking to the public, especially the part of the public who doesn't believe that Max Verstappen is a legitimate champion, or the end of the race was legitimate. I think transparency will certainly help, but as I said, it's not going to please everyone. But I'm still calling on Lewis Hamilton. I've said this for a few shows now. I'm still calling on Lewis Hamilton to be more direct with his comments. I want him to address the fans directly and tell them that there's literally nothing more that can be done about last year's championship, and he should tell them that I'm moving on from Abu Dhabi, and you should too. I think that would be the biggest help of all, and I think the FIA should definitely move forward and release the final report from Abu Dhabi, because if they don't release it, all of the outcries of people who are still skeptical over the championship race is just gonna get much worse. So they might as well just decide to release. I understand right now that they're debating whether or not to release it or not to release it. I'm just letting you know right here, if I don't release it, that's obviously going to be the wrong decision, and the skeptics are just going to go completely wild all over the great thing called the internet. Well, the internet's always not, well, it's not always so great. So yeah, and we have a comment in the chat room from Darkness Has Fallen saying it's going to be hard to win the Formula One championship this year. And looking at this year's championship, since we're entering a brand new era of Formula One, it's certainly going to be difficult predicting how everything's going to shape up. You really think you're going to see the same players towards the front? Mercedes, Red Bull, maybe Ferrari gets back up there to compete. McLaren's look strong as well. It's really hard to tell, but if you're going off the last couple of seasons, definitely those I just mentioned probably going to be in the play up front. And you also asked, did we watch today's Formula One press? No, no, no. I didn't watch it directly, but I read some of the transcripts. I went through what all the drivers were saying. But overall, those cars look really sweet, and looking forward to this year's season in Formula One. Hopefully everyone will get lucky and see an amazing championship battle like we saw in 2021. Definitely one of the classic Formula One championship battles in recent memory, although it ended in such a disastrous way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Kobe. And going back to the comments, you know, like you were saying, it's a new car in Formula One. They are doing unofficial preseason testing in Barcelona right now, and I think we'll see this. I think we'll see a lot of the same players what we've seen last few years competing for the Formula One World Championship. It's going to be interesting to see how everything develops throughout the season. And now switching over to some other news. On Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast called the Dale Jr. Download, it was announced that Ernie Francis Jr. will return to SRX this summer, competing in the series co-owned by Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham. Unlike last summer, Francis won't be running the full season. Why? Well, I'll tell you. Because he's running full time in the Indy Lights Championship, driving for Force Indy, trying to receive the big scholarship to compete in the NTT IndyCar Series in 2023. Only 2 Indy Lights race weekends conflict with SRX 6-week stretch into the summer. And with Francis making his Indy Lights debut this weekend in St. Pete, you'll be able to follow his progress throughout the season on Grid Live Encore with co-hosts Ben Schneider and Brandon Crossland. Monday nights, right here on Grid Network. So be sure to subscribe and also hit the little bell icon as well. So you'll get a notification when we're on the air. And now to some other SRX news. SRX also announced six IndyCar drivers will compete in the series this summer. They're calling it IndyCar Superstar Saturday Night. Paul Tracy, Tony Kanaan, Helio Castroneves, also known as Spider-Man, Marco Andretti, all running. Then we'll also see Joseph Newgarden and Ryan Hunter-Reay compete as well. Tracy, Andretti, and Hunter Ray will run full time all 6 races. Canal will compete in all the races but one, while Castroneves gets 3 races. Newgarden received permission from Team Penske to compete at his hometown track at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway on July 9th. Next, we go over across the pond as WRC has their second event this weekend in the snow in Raleigh, Sweden. And here's Kobe with the preview.
Yes, this weekend is the second round of the 2022 FIA World Rally Championship season in Sweden, and two rally legends who have been the face of WRC won't be there. Sebastian Loeb and Sebastian Ogier are not entered, not racing full time in 2022. Kalle Rovanperä leads Craig Breen by 2 points for third place, but one of those could leave Rally Sweden with the points lead. The battle will be on the snow. Rovanperä is from Finland. Do you think he'll be the early favorite?
Yes, I do. He's from Finland. It's cold. It's cold in Scandinavia. So, I think he'll have an advantage um, competing in the snow. And stay tuned to when we do our pick a winner segment. Don't be surprised if possibly one of us, both of us, go with Kalle Rovanperä. So to me, he is the favorite going into this weekend in Rally Sweden.
Yes, it's always a lot of fun watching all the rally drivers drive on the snow and all of that. And I do think Kalle Rovanperä, he may not be the favorite to win this weekend, but he's certainly one of the favorites. I mean, 2021, he finished third in Rally Sweden, then Ott Tanak finished second, and Elfyn Evans ended up winning the race. So I believe one of those three could potentially be in victory lane at the end of the day. And the constructors' representation of driver standing shows that the highest Hyundai is only fifth behind a pair of Fords and Toyota. Steering Neuville is fifth in the points. His closest teammate behind him, Ott Tanak, in 13th place. Oliver Solberg in 14th. Can Ott Tanak, who finished second last year, Solberg from Sweden, lead Hyundai to the podium and potentially the top step?
I do. I think Ott Tanak will rebound after his performance in Rally Monte Carlo, the first event of the year, and I think he will finish on the podium. And Peter Solberg, it's his home rally this weekend in Sweden, so he wants to put on a very good performance for his home country fans, and I think he'll also do well. I don't think he'll get on the podium, but I think he will have a top 5 finish.
Yeah, I definitely believe that Ott Tanak and Solberg can do pretty well this weekend in Sweden, especially if they have some clean races. Ott Tanak's, towards the end of last season, carrying on into this season, Ott's really had some bad luck gone his way, and he's trying to get out of this funk. But both of those are very talented drivers. But the one thing that Solberg might be running into is lack of experience with all this pressure on him. There's no Sebastian Loeb. There's no Sebastian Ogier. So Solberg, he's going to be featured a lot more with those two guys up there. And let's see if he's going to be able to handle the pressure and be able to get the job done. And on Saturday, Grid Live pre-race, Joe Savniega and Matt White from Grid History will recap the event leading up to when we go on the air. And Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up, Joe and Adam will discuss the finish and the championship points leader leaving Sweden. Next, a story coming out of IndyCar. After speaking with Jennifer from the Associated Press, Roger Penske told her that IndyCar is in talks with Toyota about returning to the sport. Since Lotus departed IndyCar at the end of 2012, IndyCar has been searching for a while to get that third manufacturer into the series. The talks with Toyota are the closest they've been to securing a deal after Ferrari flirted with the idea about coming to IndyCar. And the last time Toyota raced in IndyCar was the year 2005. According to Fryer, if Toyota confirms an IndyCar program, they would most likely return with Vassar Sullivan Racing, who runs GT3 cars in IMSA under Toyota's sister brand Lexus. Roger Penske told the AP that Toyota hasn't said no to an IndyCar program or told them to leave them alone So there's some hope that they'll join Chevrolet and Honda in the NTT IndyCar series. And let us know in the comments below, do you think Toyota will return to IndyCar, and what other manufacturers do you want to see in the NTT IndyCar series? Next, here's Matt White with the Grid History Update.
Hi everyone, Matt White here from Grid_History. Just popping in to give you your weekly roundup of results from around the world of motorsport. What a terrific weekend at Daytona it was. Congratulations to all our winners in the 4 big races across the weekend. Trucks, ARCA, Xfinity, and the big one, the Daytona 500. Austin Cindric putting off a big victory for Roger Penske on Roger Penske's birthday. Excellent synergy there for Cindric to get his first Cup win. They move on, of course, to Fontana this week on potentially the last run on the big track at Fontana before it gets ripped up and turned into a short track. A couple of other races across the weekend at Abu Dhabi on Saturday and Sunday from the Asian Le Mans Series. 16-year-old Josh Pearson for United Autosports sharing with Paul di Resta at the weekend in both races. His second and third prototype races after doing the Rolex 24 a couple of weeks back. He won both of those races and they dominated in both of them to take victory. Both the races in GT were won by the Renault brothers, Alfred and Robert, along with Ralph Bone for Herb of Porsche. Both races being won by them. Championships done now. It's only 4 races in 2 weeks for those two, for the Championship Asian Le Mans Series, 2 at Dubai last week and 2 at Abu Dhabi this weekend. Ben Hanley, Matt Bell and Rodrigo Sanes, who were the victors in both races at Dubai, got 2 second places this weekend, and of course that means they are the champions. Di Resta and Pearson did not run at Dubai last weekend, so they weren't racing them. All they had to do was focus on what they were doing and get finishes, so congratulations to them. In GT, Ben Barnicoat, Brendan Aribe and Ollie Milroy took home the championship. Looking forward to this weekend, a big one. IndyCar kicks off in St. Petersburg. We'll have a full preview of that on Saturday on Grid Pre-Race, and you can hear the race with myself and Matt Owens live on USRN on Mixer.com on Saturday. As I mentioned, NASCAR is in California with Xfinity Saturday and Cup on Sunday at Auto Club Speedway, and it's WRC making its return as well this weekend in Sweden, the snow event of the season, one of the fastest events of the year, and it looks like we're going to have some pretty decent weather up in Sweden as well this weekend. So we'll be talking about all of that stuff on pre-race on Saturday. Make sure you join us then.
Yeah, be sure to join us then, as Matt said. And at the end of last week on Twitter, racing legend Mario Andretti dropped this bombshell to the world. It's been no secret that Michael Andretti, owner of Andretti Autosport, has a strong desire to start a Formula One team. He tried to buy the Alfa Romeo F1 team last year, but it didn't work out. So he went back to the drawing board, and Mario tweeted that his son Michael reached out to the FIA about starting up a Formula One team called Andretti Global, starting in the year 2024, so just 2 years' time. Mario, in an interview with the Indy Star, told them that an Andretti Formula One team will be based in the United Kingdom with a shop in Indianapolis, and that a future engine deal is already done. They're just waiting for the FIA approval, give them the green light, and if Andretti Global gets approved, they're expected to have at least one American driver come to Formula One with them, and that driver is more than likely going to be their young IndyCar star, Colton Herta. And after speaking with the Indy Star, Mario spoke to Chris Metlin from Racer.com about doing something unprecedented in Formula One alongside an Andretti Global F1 team. Mario said Michael has dreams of fielding teams also in Formula 2 and Formula 3, and usually we'll see Formula 3 and Formula 2 teams run young development drivers who have already signed a development contract with a Formula One team, like Mick Schumacher was a Ferrari Academy driver racing for Prima in Formula 2. But Andretti having teams at each level on the road to Indy ladder system will be a game changer, potentially finding young American drivers and giving them a more realistic chance of reaching the pinnacle of motorsport. In the photo you see right here, Michael Andretti and Colton Herta, courtesy of Chris Jones from Penske Entertainment. Adam, we remember the excitement when Gene Haas came to Formula One, forming an American Formula One team. Would Michael Andretti entering the sport with his own team be on a different level?
Yep. And for those of you who may not know, Michael Andretti did compete in Formula One back in 1993 with McLaren. He only did half a season, and his highest finish was third in the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. a lot of DNFs for Michael Andretti when he drove for McLaren. But with this news, I think it'd be really cool to see. Last year we saw a lot of fans attend the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, and this year we have 2 U.S. Grand Prix, one in Miami, Florida, around on a street circuit around Hard Rock Stadium, and the return of the U.S. Grand Prix to Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And when I heard this news, I think if it does happen, it'll give. I mean, you think about the name Andretti; it's known throughout the world. I hope that this does happen, and if Colton Herta is one of the drivers, I think he would do really well in Formula One.
Yes, I feel like Colton Herta would certainly do well in Formula One. And getting back to the question, I feel like Andretti coming to Formula One would be a much bigger deal than Haas F1. And no disrespect to Gene Haas, before he joined the sport, he was already a successful businessman. He had a championship with Stewart Haas race alongside Tony Stewart when he won after that incredible championship battle at Homestead, when Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards tied for the championship, with Tony getting the tiebreaker, which was quite an exceptional championship battle that year in 2011. So Gene Haas had some success in NASCAR and the business world entering Formula One. But look at everything and Andretti Autosport has accomplished in motorsports. They've done so much over the years. I remember the time when they were racing in the American Le Mans series back in the day, and then their partnership with Walkinshaw in the Repco Supercars championship, I believe, and they're also racing LMP3 and IMSA. All their IndyCar success, obviously. Andretti Autosport is known worldwide. And can't forget their FIA Formula E program as well. So Andretti Global is definitely, quite the name, because they are truly global. And adding the Formula One team would definitely make it much bigger. And we do have some comments in the chat room right here from M. Tiller 2006. And speaking of COTA, the contract for to run the United States Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas has been extended to 2026. I remember reading about that earlier this week. So really cool for all the people who enjoy the racing at COTA. And you said if Andretti comes to Formula One, it would be something else. Yeah, I think it would be really huge. And it was really promising hearing that Andretti may be able to fill the Formula 3 team and a Formula 2 team. And that way, you know, watching all the talent that's here in the States coming up, if they believe a kid is good enough to race in Formula 1, Andretti will be able to make their dreams come true, because right now, to a young American kid with F1 aspirations, it's basically more of a fantasy than a reality that I can make it to Formula One, because for American drivers, it seems like it's a steep uphill battle and extremely unlikely to happen. But with Andretti coming into the fold, I feel like the chance to see an American Formula One driver, not just one, but multiple American drivers who can make into Formula One. I feel like that fantasy I just talked about can really start to shift more towards a reality, and I think that would be excellent for the sport to see a team in F3, F2, and F1. And I do think in 2024, assuming the FIA approves, Colton Herta will more than likely be the driver, because he's currently one of the most talented young American superstars here in the States, whether regardless of the series, whether it's sports cars, stock cars, open wheel. Colton Herta is definitely that guy that a lot of people are excited about and want him to get that opportunity to see on the world stage. So we'll see if Colton Herta will go to Formula One in 2024, assuming everything is fine. And while there's a lot of excitement building here in the United States about a second American Formula One team, it's actually not that simple to get everything started. Sorry to burst everyone's bubble there. According to Scott Mitchell from the race, an FIA spokesperson told them the FIA is currently not in a position to consider or comment on anything related to potential new Formula One teams. For starters, Andretti, as Lewis Hamilton says, cash is king. You need money. Andretti would have to pay a $200 million fee due to the Concord Agreement. Mitchell says Formula One isn't opposed to adding an 11th team and 22 cars to the grid, but a new entrant would have to sell themselves well to the FIA to show that they're serious about racing in Formula One long term, check all the boxes, and be financially sustainable. So, Adam, are those potential roadblocks going to be a problem for Andretti, or you have the confidence in them to produce a compelling case to the FIA to get approved?
Michael Andretti has money, so I think we will see Andretti Global on the grid in 2024. And I think Colton Herta will be one of the drivers. You mentioned Kobe. There are roadblocks, but I think it will happen. It's going to be interesting to see when the FIA, if the FIA approves of this. The name Andretti is global enough, so hopefully we will see Michael Andretti, and Colton Herta in Formula One in 2024, and Walkinshaw Andretti United is a team in the Repco Supercars Championship, and they start their year next weekend under the lights at Sydney Motorsports Park. So, like you said, Kobe, money is king. But I know you mentioned roadblocks, but I think we will see Andretti Global on the grid in 2024.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I don't, yeah, like I said, there are roadblocks, but I can't imagine the FIA doing something like putting up a wall and being like, Andretti, we don't want you to join Formula One. Like this is Michael Andretti of all people. I already mentioned all of his accomplishments. I forgot to mention that his car won the Bathurst 1000 at the end of last year with Chaz Mostert and Lee Holsworth. So he's even won the Bathurst 1000, a Crandall race in Australia. So the resume just really speaks for itself. We could go on and on about the accomplishments of Andretti Autosport. Like we could literally make the entire grid tonight hour about Andretti Autosport and have like 40 to 50 minutes of content for you. That's how much they've accomplished. And I do understand why the FIA tries to put up all these boxes that they want to check because they want a team that's going to be around for a while. They don't they don't want a team to start up and then the day before the season start, the checks are gonna bounce, and then you won't have an entire team on the grid. So I understand why they want to protect the integrity of Formula One and all of that. And Adam, before we move on to our next section, we do have some comments in the chat room from M Tiller 2006. Again, you say you don't expect the name Andretti to be blocked out. After all, Adam said it well, and I agree. He has a great name in racing. And you also said, I also remember Andretti was a character in F1 pole position in place of Ayrton Senna. Since Senna had a contract with another game, no disrespect to Senna, but Andretti is sure a great driver himself. Adam, you have any responses to his comments?
Well, first of all, those comments are from an F1 fan named Michael Tiller who lives in Atlanta, and I'll say he has a really great YouTube channel as well. If you like game shows and gaming as well, and I agree with what Michael said. Michael Andretti has accomplished so much in motorsports. He's won an IndyCar, or he's won an IndyCar championship. He's won so much in IndyCars. You mentioned the Bathurst 1000, Formula E. And he's accomplished so much in motorsports. So if this doesn't get approved, there'll probably be a lot of fans that'll be disappointed in this, and I think it will happen, and it's going to be interesting to see Andretti Global on the grid in Formula One in 2024, and who knows if Colton Herta will be one of the drivers, but it's going to be. I think it'll happen, and I can't wait to see it. And now moving on to some other news. regarding the FIA World Rally Championship. A few hours before we went on the show, the FIA released this statement calling out racial abuse on social media. Michael Masi, a black rally driver from Kenya, was the victim of racial comments on social media. This happened leading up to his FIA Junior World Rally Championship debut this weekend in Raleigh, Sweden. And it says on the screen, "We condemn racist abuse and any form of discrimination toward our teams, competitors, and fans, and we will take all necessary steps to help ensure that any abuse is duly reported to the relevant authority. We are working to build a more diverse and inclusive sport, and abuse must be highlighted and eliminated. There is no place for it in our sport and in society." Motorsports is a place where everyone is and should be welcome. Nobody should be discriminated, and we stand with the FIA condemning racial abuse and discrimination. Now it's time for Pick a Winner. And as you can see on the leaderboard, Kobe's on top with 2, and there's a logjam behind him, including myself, with 1. And this weekend, not only is WRC competing, but IndyCar is making its debut at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, and NASCAR is in Fontana in California. So use the hashtag Pick a Winner to get on the leaderboard. And now it's time for Kobe and I to make our picks who we think is going to win Rally Sweden. So Kobe, I'll start with you. At the end of Sunday, who takes home round 2 of the WRC championship in Sweden?
Oh wow, Adam, it's really gotten a lot harder to pick these World Rally Championship races, and you know why? Because I don't have Sebastian Loeb and I don't have Sebastian Ogier in the field, so a lot of star power gone. So I'm just gonna look at what's happened in recent years in this event, and I'm gonna go with last year's winner. I think Elfyn Evans is gonna get it done and win Rally Sweden.
That's a good, solid pick, Kobe. But I mentioned my pick earlier on. I'm going with Kalle Rovanperä from Finland. Even though he finished 3rd last year, he's a Scandinavian. He's really good in the snow. So if you go to our Twitter page at grid_ranking, a lot of our other Grid Network colleagues have made their picks as well. Well, Kobe, another episode of Grid Tonight in the books. I'll hand it over to you for the wrap-up.
Yep, that's it for another episode of Grid Tonight. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the Grid Network here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show and consider joining our Patreon page, Invest in Grid Network, to keep us on the air well into the future. Do you want to buy me a coffee? Click the link in the video description below, and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. And we also want to give a special thank you to Edward Hunter from Formerly Zone, Amber J, and Zachary W for buying us a coffee. We greatly appreciate it, guys. And any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Visit public.com, also known as the stock market social media home. The link below in referral code gives you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com will allow you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to invest in the stock market. And looking at our schedule for the upcoming weekend, Thursday morning, a new episode of Women in Motorsports. Jamie Chadwick will drive for Caitlyn Jenner. With a brand new team, can Jamie Chadwick become a 3-time W Series champion? And then Saturday, noon Eastern, Grid Live pre-race. We have update on World Rally Championship, Rally Sweden, NASCAR Fontana, and the NTT IndyCar Series season over on the streets of St. Pete for the Firestone Grand Prix. And Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up, 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race in Fontana. For Adam Lemerise, I'm Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities such as new companies and potential business partners and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.